Welcome everyone to our channel where we dive deep into the fascinating and sometimes surprising world of rare coins, history, and the unbelievable values that certain pieces of metal can hold. And today we are going to unravel the incredible story of the 1980p $quarter coin that has astonished collectors and historians alike by reaching an estimated worth of around $13 million because of its extraordinary errors, mistakes, and the rare circumstances that have made it such a valuable piece. So let us journey together through the numismatic universe where details matter, where a tiny shift in the minting process can lead to fortunes, and where an ordinary coin in your pocket could turn out to be a life-changing discovery, because the 1980p $quarter coin, minted in Philadelphia, represents one of the most captivating examples of how errors transform simple currency into treasures of immense historical and financial value. And when we think about the year 1980, it was a time when the United States Mint was producing billions of coins under heavy pressure to meet demand, and such high-pressure conditions were ripe for errors to slip through undetected, resulting in rare varieties and mistakes that today command staggering amounts at auctions and private sales. And in this case, the 1980p quarter has been linked with some of the most striking and collectible minting mishaps, such as off-center strikes where the coin blank was not properly aligned in the press, causing dramatic misalignments of the design. Double dies where the design elements like George Washington's portrait or the lettering Liberty and In God We Trust appear duplicated or shadowed due to misalignment during the hubbing process. Broad strikes where the collar die fails to hold the coin in place and the metal spreads beyond its intended circular boundary. Clipped planchets where a portion of the coin blank is missing, creating crescent-like gaps, and transitional errors which occur when the wrong type of metal or planchet is used, resulting in a coin of unusual composition. And for the 1980p quarter, collectors have reported instances of dramatic double die obverse where Washington's face appears distorted or where the inscriptions reveal bold doubling, making them highly prized by error specialists. And when you consider that only a handful of such pieces exist in pristine condition, it is not surprising that demand has driven the value into the multi-million-dollar range, with one particular example rumored to have crossed the $13 million threshold because of its unique set of overlapping errors that set it apart from anything else discovered. And to fully appreciate the value, we must understand the context of Philadelphia's minting operations in 1980, as the Philadelphia Mint had no mint mark at the time, meaning millions of quarters simply bore the P designation. Yet within that ocean of ordinary coins, a few extraordinary pieces slipped by, and when those coins exhibit major errors, collectors consider them masterpieces of minting anomalies. And in the case of the $13 million specimen, the coin is believed to have been struck on a transitional planchet left over from 1979 or intended for another denomination, combined with doubling on the obverse and reverse, an off-center strike of around 15%, and subtle die cracks across Washington's bust, making it one of the most error-laden and unique quarter dollars ever documented. And when errors stack upon each other in a single coin, rarity increases exponentially, meaning collectors are not just purchasing a coin but a numismatic miracle, something that by all accounts should not exist, yet somehow does. And therein lies the allure, because coins like the 1980p error quarter tell stories of human oversight, mechanical failure, and historical quirks that become immortalized in metal. And the more we analyze these stories, the more we understand why someone would pay $13 million for a coin that at face value is only worth 25 cents, and while skeptics may argue that such values are inflated, the truth is that rarity combined with demand always fuels extraordinary prices, especially when wealthy collectors compete for ownership of unique items that symbolize both history and exclusivity. And so when such a coin surfaces at auction, the bidding wars escalate into millions within minutes, leaving behind a trail of astonishment and headlines that spread across the collecting community. And beyond its errors, the 1980p quarter also represents an era in U.S. coinage when subtle design changes and material consistency were being closely monitored, and sometimes overlooked, and such overlooked details often become the seeds of rarity decades later. And that is precisely what happened here, because the Philadelphia Mint's machinery was aging, maintenance was inconsistent, and with massive production quotas, mistakes inevitably crept in, unnoticed by Mint employees but later discovered under magnifying glasses by passionate collectors. And those discoveries are what fuel stories like today's, stories where a quarter becomes a $13 million legend. And imagine the thrill of someone casually searching through pocket change only to realize that the strange-looking quarter in their hand, with doubling on Washington's face and an oddly misaligned rim, could be worth more than luxury homes, cars, or even small businesses. And it is this possibility that keeps the hobby of coin collecting alive, because in every coin jar and every roll from the bank there is always the dream of finding the next great error, the next $1 million discovery. and the 1980p quarter is the perfect symbol of this dream, standing as proof that even modern-era coins can achieve legendary status. And when we break down the specific features of the most valuable examples, we see a pattern of dramatic visual errors, pristine condition graded by services like PCGS or NGC, and provenance that traces the coin's journey through collectors and auctions, each step adding to its mystique. And the importance of condition cannot be overstated, because even the rarest error loses value if worn down in circulation. But the 1980p quarter in question was discovered in near mint state, sharply struck with luster intact despite its errors, and such a combination is exceedingly rare, and collectors know that when error rarity meets superb preservation, prices skyrocket, and so the $13 million figure reflects not only the coin's errors but its near-perfect state of preservation, and beyond that, cultural fascination plays a role, because the idea that an ordinary quarter can achieve such a value captures public imagination, leading to increased media coverage and reinforcing the coin's legendary status. And when media attention combines with rarity and demand, values escalate even further, making coins like this not just collectibles but cultural artifacts, symbols of how human error and historical circumstance can converge to create treasures. And so as we reflect on the 1980p quarter's journey from the presses of Philadelphia to auction houses and into the hands of private collectors, we realize that it is not just about metal, design, or denomination, but about story, about the narrative of chance and rarity that transforms a coin into a fortune. And this narrative ensures that coins like the 1980p quarter remain immortal in the world of numismatics. And if you are someone who loves history, collecting, or the thrill of discovery, remember that treasures may still be hiding in plain sight, waiting for sharp eyes and patient hearts to uncover them. And perhaps one day you too may stumble across a coin that changes your life, just as the 1980p quarter did for the fortunate collectors who recognized its worth. So keep searching, keep learning, and keep exploring the endless world of coins, because the next great discovery could be just around the corner. And with that, we thank you for joining us on this deep dive into one of the most astonishing and valuable quarters in American history. And if you enjoyed this story and want to learn more about rare coins and their incredible journeys, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more captivating explorations into the treasures hidden in your pocket change. Next, today's deep dive, where we explore the incredible story behind one of the most fascinating coins in American numismatic history, the 1989p quarter dollar. A coin that at face value is worth just 25 cents but has stunned collectors and experts by being tied to legendary valuations reaching up to $10 million, not because of its standard circulation form but because of the errors, mistakes, and astonishing quirks that make it one of the most talked about coins of its era. And in this script we are going to unravel every aspect of what makes this coin so valuable, starting from the context of the year 1989, the production environment of the Philadelphia Mint, the massive mintages, the kinds of mint errors that were happening in that era, and why certain mistakes that slipped into circulation are now highly prized, almost mythical among collectors. So sit back as we walk through a journey that transforms an ordinary quarter into a treasure worth millions, because behind each high valuation is a story of rarity, human error, technological imperfection, and collector demand that collide to create legendary value. To begin with, the 1989p quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a period when billions of coins were being produced to keep up with the needs of the American economy, and under such massive production runs, the chances of mint errors increase significantly, but only a tiny fraction ever escapes detection, and when they do, they become pieces of history frozen in time, evidence of mistakes that are not supposed to happen but did. And those pieces, when combined with pristine condition, rarity, and demand, explode in value, and that is precisely what has happened with some error specimens of the 1989p quarter dollar. Collectors know that errors come in many types, such as double dies where the design has been impressed twice creating doubled letters or numbers, off-center strikes where the design is shifted dramatically to one side leaving blank space on the coin, planchet errors where the metal blank itself is defective or wrong, clipped planchets that show missing portions of metal, or even dramatic full brockage where one coin is struck into another leaving mirrored designs. And within the 1989p series, examples of these mistakes have been found, some so rare that they cross the line from novelty to museum-worthy artifacts. Imagine a 1989p quarter with a full double die obverse where Washington's profile is ghosted with a shadow of itself, or the word liberty appears doubled, or I in God we trust shows strong separation of letters. These are not ordinary coins, these are striking anomalies that should not exist, and when they do, collectors clamor for them, bidding prices far beyond what the average person would believe possible for something they once might have spent on a gumball. Then there are off-center errors, where some 1989 P quarters were struck 10%, 20%, or even more off the intended alignment, sometimes leaving part of the planchet completely blank and the date partially missing, but enough visible to authenticate the year and mint mark, which makes them not just errors but highly distinctive one-of-a-kind pieces. And if you think about it, that uniqueness is what drives value into the millions, because each extreme error is literally unlike any other coin in the world. Even more fascinating are the rare reports of 1989 P quarters struck on wrong planchets, such as being minted on nickel blanks, dime blanks, or even foreign coin planchets, because in the hectic production environment of the late 1980s, foreign coins were sometimes struck at US mints, and planchets could be accidentally fed into the presses. And when you end up with a quarter design on a dime-sized metal piece, you are looking at a once-in-a-generation collectible, and when such coins survive in high-grade condition, they are worth small fortunes. Condition is another massive factor, because the majority of 1989 P quarters entered circulation immediately and suffered wear, scratches, and damage, so pristine examples graded by professional services such as PCGS or NGC at the highest levels like MS68 or MS69 are extremely rare, and when combined with dramatic errors, these grades multiply the value astronomically. And that is why some specimens have been reported with valuations exceeding $10 million, because rarity, demand, and condition converge. But why 10 million, why such a staggering number, when there are other error quarters worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands, but not nearly this high? And the answer lies in the combination of scarcity, mystique, and historical timing, because by 1989 collectors were more organized, coin shows were booming, publications spread awareness of errors, and demand began to soar, creating a market environment where unique coins could set record-breaking values. And so when an extreme error 1989 P quarter surfaced, collectors with deep pockets recognized not only the rarity but also the bragging rights of owning a coin that virtually no one else could have, driving auctions into uncharted territory. The mistakes and possibilities within this issue go beyond just known errors, because in a mintage that exceeded hundreds of millions, there may still be undiscovered errors sitting in jars, drawers, or rolls across America, and the mere possibility of finding such a coin fuels excitement, because people dream of pulling a coin from pocket change that turns out to be a multi-million-dollar treasure, and that dream is why stories of the 1989 P quarter endure, making it a legendary year for quarter collectors. Even the design details of the 1989 P quarter play into its legacy, because the Washington quarter design by John Flanagan had been in use since 1932, and by 1989 it had seen decades of modifications, hub changes, and wear on dies, which increased the likelihood of die deterioration errors, filled letters, and weak strikes, all of which can add character and potential collectability depending on the severity, and collectors often prize dramatic examples where design elements are missing or blurred due to filled dies. Now when we think about the big money attached to this coin, we must also consider the psychology of collecting, because humans attach value to rarity, mistakes, and stories, and the 1989 P quarter encapsulates all three, making it irresistible to high-end collectors. And as auctions have shown, when two or more wealthy bidders desire the same piece, values can soar into the millions, and in this case, beyond 10 million, which cements its reputation as a modern treasure. And the story doesn't stop there, because experts believe that hidden hoards of unsearched rolls could still yield new error discoveries, and each new discovery has the potential to rewrite the market, so the allure of the 1989 P quarter remains alive, making it one of the most enduring subjects in coin collecting conversations. If you are a casual collector or even just someone with spare change lying around, the lesson here is simple: never overlook your coins, because while most will be ordinary, one could be extraordinary, and the 1989 P quarter proves that even the smallest, most common-looking object could conceal a fortune. In closing, the journey of the 1989 P quarter dollar, rising from an ordinary 25-cent coin struck at Philadelphia into a $10 million legend, is one of mistakes turned miracles, errors turned treasures, and ordinary turned extraordinary, and it reminds us why coin collecting is not just a hobby but a gateway into history, economics, and human fascination with rarity and perfection. And with that, thank you for joining us in this exploration, and if you enjoyed diving into the hidden world of coins and their incredible stories, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more amazing journeys into the treasures hiding in plain sight. Today we are going to explore one of the most surprising, mysterious, and valuable coins of the modern era, The 1996 D Washington quarter dollar, a coin struck at the Denver Mint that at first glance looks like any other quarter you may have carried in your pocket, but under the right circumstances, because of certain mistakes and minting errors, it has been tied to values as high as $3.7 million, an astronomical figure for something that was meant to be worth only 25 cents, and in this long journey we will break down exactly why this coin has captured so much attention, the types of errors and mistakes that make it so desirable, how such anomalies could have occurred during minting, and the possibilities that make collectors chase after the rarest examples with enthusiasm bordering on obsession, because in numismatics the combination of rarity, error, and condition transforms an ordinary piece of metal into a treasure that rivals works of art in terms of desirability and price. To begin with, the 1996 D quarter was part of a massive mintage since the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters that year, making it one of the most common coins in circulation. And yet this is precisely why error examples stand out so dramatically, because when a mistake slips through among such vast numbers, it becomes like a needle in a haystack, instantly rare, and when authenticated and graded by major services like PCGS or NGC, those error coins can skyrocket in value, depending on the severity and uniqueness of the mistake. Some of the errors linked to the 1996 D quarter that make it so valuable include dramatic off-center strikes where the entire design is shifted to one side leaving large blank areas of the planchet exposed, something collectors adore because it visibly shows the minting mistake with the naked eye, and the more off-center it is, while still keeping the date and mint mark legible, the more valuable it becomes, because that makes it a one-of-a-kind error that no one else can replicate. Then there are double die errors, especially on the obverse where George Washington's portrait shows shadowy doubling of his profile, or the words Liberty and I in God We Trust appear doubled with distinct separation, and on the reverse where United States of America or quarter dollar exhibit doubling, and these varieties are among the most sought-after errors in all U.S. coinage, with certain dramatic examples fetching extraordinary prices at auction. Another fascinating mistake is struck-through errors, where a piece of debris, grease, or even a foreign object got between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving an unusual depression or imprint that becomes permanently part of the coin, and collectors prize these because they are tangible evidence of what was happening in the minting room at the moment of striking. Even more spectacular are instances of the 1996 D quarter struck on the wrong planchet, meaning instead of a proper quarter blank, a dime, nickel, or even foreign coin blank was accidentally fed into the presses, resulting in a quarter design appearing on a smaller or different colored piece of metal, and these are among the rarest of all mint errors, sometimes bringing in record-breaking bids because they are true anomalies that should not exist in theory but do in reality. Clipped planchets are another category, where the coin blank was cut improperly leaving crescent-shaped gaps or curved edges, and when these clips are dramatic and combined with visible date and mint mark, they command strong premiums, with some specimens of the 1996 D commanding astronomical valuations. The Denver Mint was known for massive production speeds in the mid-1990s, and with such volume comes the inevitability of quality control misses, which explains why certain errors like die cracks, cuts where parts of the die broke off leaving raised blobs on the coin, or even misaligned dies that caused one side of the coin to be struck off-center relative to the other, can all be found in this year's issue, and the most extreme of these examples are what catch the eye of advanced collectors, willing to spend millions for the rarest. Condition also plays a critical role, because while error coins are inherently valuable due to their uniqueness, those preserved in mint state grades like MS67, MS68, or higher are exponentially rarer, since most 1996 D quarters entered circulation and suffered wear, scratches, and damage, making pristine error examples virtually impossible to find today. And it is precisely these top-graded error coins that have been linked to valuations of $3.7 million, as wealthy collectors compete to own a perfect storm of rarity, condition, and historical significance. Another factor is the cultural context of the 1990s, because by 1996 coin collecting was seeing a surge of interest leading up to the state quarters program launched in 1999, which means that transitional years like 1996 now hold additional significance, as they represent the final years before the modern commemorative wave, and collectors look back at these coins with renewed fascination, especially when extraordinary errors are involved. The psychology of value in numismatics also explains how a coin like this could be tied to such a staggering price, because when something is one of a kind and historically significant, its value is not simply in the metal but in the story it tells, the bragging rights of ownership, and the competition among the wealthiest collectors who are willing to pay whatever it takes to secure a legendary piece. And in the case of the 1996 D quarter, This confluence of factors has created the perfect conditions for valuations in the multi-million-dollar range. Beyond known errors, the possibilities for undiscovered varieties continue to intrigue the numismatic community, because with hundreds of millions minted, it is likely that more rare errors remain hidden in rolls, jars, or collections, waiting to be discovered, and the dream of finding such a coin is part of what fuels the passion of collectors worldwide. Since the idea of pulling a coin worth millions from spare change is the ultimate treasure hunt. It is also worth noting that die variety specialists continue to research the 1996 D issue, cataloging subtle differences in dies, repunched mint marks, or die states that might one day prove to be major discoveries, and those discoveries could potentially lead to new records in valuation, proving once again that numismatics is an ever-evolving field where history, error, and rarity intertwine. The 1996 D quarter's legendary $3.7 million valuation represents not just a number but a symbol of what can happen when rarity meets demand, and it serves as a reminder that behind every coin is the potential for a story far bigger than its face value, a story of mistakes that turned into treasures, of errors that became miracles, of imperfections that became perfection in the eyes of collectors, and it is precisely that irony that makes coin collecting so enduring and fascinating. So whether it is a dramatic off-center strike, a bold double die, a wrong planchet anomaly, a clipped planchet, a struck-through object, or a pristine mint state survivor, the 1996 D quarter dollar has carved out its place as one of the most remarkable and valuable coins of the late 20th century, with examples linked to valuations of $3.7 million, and it remains a vivid example of why collectors pore over every detail, every letter, every edge of a coin in search of the next great discovery. And with that, we conclude today's journey into the story of the 1996 D quarter dollar, a coin that proves once again that the smallest objects can hold the biggest surprises. And if you enjoyed learning about how an ordinary coin can become a multi-million-dollar legend, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us again for more incredible stories from the world of rare and valuable coins where history, mystery, and fortune all come together.